Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. The first Summit for Democracy kicking off today. What's the goal of the event? We hear from top democracy advocates on why they think it's important. The Senate blocking Biden's federal vaccine mandate for private businesses. It comes as a New York hospital fires 100 unvaccinated employees, even though they had religious exemptions. A new report positions California as a sanctuary for abortion seekers. This, as the state prepares for the potential fall of Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court. The Senate Judiciary Committee holding a hearing on closing the Guantanamo Bay prison. Lawmakers are disappointed that the Biden administration is refusing to send an official to testify. A legal group sues the D.C. Board of Elections for keeping its voter roll maintenance records secret. Federal law says that all records used to add or remove voters are public records. The body of Bob Dole lies in state in the Rotunda of the U.S. Capitol. He was 98 years old when he died on Sunday. He becomes only the 33rd person to receive the honor of lying in state in the Rotunda. The ceremony included a military honor guard carrying Dole's body up the steps of the Capitol and into the Rotunda. President Biden paid respects to Dole and called him one of America's greatest patriots. Biden said that even though he and Dole didn't agree on everything during their time in the Senate, they still found ways to work together. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that Dole redefined and elevated what it means to serve the country. The honor guard will stand with Dole's body for the entire night. Leaders of the free world are meeting virtually today and tomorrow for the Summit for Democracy, a summit hosted by the U.S. Washington says it's rallying nations against rising authoritarian rule. NTD's Jessica Beatty has the details.
President Biden kicked off the virtual Summit for Democracy Thursday morning with over 100 world leaders.
Democracy doesn't happen by accident. We have to renew it with each generation. And this is an urgent matter on all our parts, in my view.
Washington says it hopes the two-day summit will be a boost for global democracy, threatened by an increase in authoritarian rulers. The State Department's top official for democracy says the event comes at a critical time.
Make no mistake, we're at a moment of democratic reckoning, when the greatest challenges we face cross borders, regions, and domains of expertise.
Earlier this year, Biden said he'd face down authoritarian forces led by China and Russia. Neither country was invited to the summit.
The aim should be to strengthen our voice and our efforts to counter the advancing autocracies like China, Russia, and other autocrats.
U.S. officials promising a year of action will follow. Earlier this week, Biden threatened economic sanctions against Russia to dissuade it from invading Ukraine. And American diplomats have committed to boycott next year's Winter Olympic Games in China over the regime's human rights abuses. The House also voting Wednesday to ban all goods from China's Xinjiang region over concerns about forced labor. It passed by an overwhelming 428-1. Despite concerns about the state of American democracy, the founder of Alliance of Democracies Foundation remains optimistic.
I consider the American democracy quite strong, quite resilient. I still consider America the shining city on the hill.
The director of the nonprofit Freedom House says the event has the potential to push struggling democracies to do better. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
The Senate voted on Wednesday to block President Biden's vaccine mandate for the private sector. 2 Democrats joined Republicans to pass the resolution. In a narrow, mostly party-line vote, the Senate passed a resolution of disapproval of the OSHA rule. That rule forces companies with 100 or more employees to require their workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19 or to test them weekly. All 50 Republicans joined Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator Mike Braun from Indiana.
The federal government has no authority to make anyone choose between getting a vaccine and keeping their job.
They challenged the measure under the Congressional Review Act, which allows them to overturn new regulations by federal offices such as OSHA. The 2 Democrats who broke party ranks were Senators Joe Manchin and Jon Tester. A Democrat from Washington makes his case for the mandate.
So how on earth does it make sense right now to undercut one of the strongest tools that we have to get people vaccinated and stop this virus. In what world is that a good idea?
House lawmakers must vote on the resolution next. A hospital system in Buffalo, New York said it fired about 100 unvaccinated employees, though they were previously granted religious exemptions. With less hands on deck, Kaleida Health said it's now going to delay inpatient elective surgeries at 2 of its locations. Those are surgeries it deems non-essential. It's unclear why the exempted employees were fired. An increasing number of nurses are quitting a hospital system in Massachusetts. According to a member of the Massachusetts Nursing Association Board of Directors, morale is low and burnout is high. The director said this to the Epoch Times. It comes as Massachusetts hospitals continue to give red slips to nurses for not complying with the mandate. Nearly 500 Los Angeles Unified School District employees were fired this week. That's because they did not comply with the district's vaccine mandate. That's according to what a district spokesperson told Los Angeles Daily News. The board's VP said that while no one's excited about dismissing staff members, the overall majority of employees have been vaccinated, and he says that's why they've been able to keep schools open since August. He said about 1,100 district staff have been fired over the mandate so far. The Department of Justice has agreed to recognize a union representing over 500 immigration judges. It comes after the DOJ under Trump pushed to strip the judges' rights to unionize in 2019. Earlier, I spoke with renowned immigration attorney Susan Cohen to learn more about the implications of this reversal and whether travel bans are protecting Americans from COVID, specifically Biden's suspension of entry for immigrants over the Omicron variant.
The travel bans that were instituted with regard to COVID that had recently all come to an end right before this new one that President Biden instituted regarding Omicron, actually don't necessarily work to protect all of us in the United States from transmission of the virus. It's going to cause a lot of difficulty for people who wish to be reunited with family and other people who need to come to the United States. But we can test people and we can require proof of vaccination. And it's an interesting thing that with regard to all these COVID-related travel bans, there are baked-in exceptions for people who are related to American citizens, permanent residents, and they can avoid the ban. They can still come even if they've been in the target country where we're concerned about COVID. And it's everyone else who's banned from coming under the travel ban.
Shifting gears here, what are the implications of the Immigration Judges Union's victory to restore union rights?
This is a very positive development because it was under President Trump that the attempt was first made back in 2018 to decertify the Union of Immigration Judges and to take discretion away from them, impose quotas on them for case completions, which required them to actually rush through all the cases and not be able to make informed, well-reasoned decisions. And the judges were extremely upset about that, the members of the judges union. So the fact that the Biden administration has approved the ability of the judges union to stay intact is actually a very positive sign for justice and for really for a democratic system of government to allow judges to have, under the separation of powers principle, the freedom to be able to exercise their rights and decide cases as the facts of the case require and not as the administration, one administration or another, regardless of the politics of that administration would require. It's really good for democracy, I think.
The U.S. has sent back the first 2 illegal immigrants since restarting a Trump-era program to keep asylum seekers in Mexico. The United States and Mexico agreed last week to relaunch the program known as Migrant Protection Protocols. The policy makes asylum seekers wait in Mexico for their U.S. immigration hearing. The Trump administration enacted the Remain in Mexico policy in January 2019, closing what they saw as a loophole that allowed illegal immigrants to enter the U.S. after claiming asylum. President Biden ended the program soon after he became president, but a federal judge reversed that decision. Mexico made the restart conditional on Washington meeting certain criteria, including offering vaccines to asylum seekers and barring vulnerable people from expulsion. President Biden is facing a record number of illegal immigrant arrests at the U.S.-Mexico border. Arizona is moving public safety resources to the southern border to deal with the surge in illegal immigration. Governor Doug Ducey is sending National Guard members to the Yuma area, which he says is being inundated with illegal crossings. NTD's Allison Lee brings us more.
The latest deployment to Yuma includes 24 Arizona National Guard members, 6 vehicles, 4 ATVs, and 1 helicopter. They will support the state's Department of Public Safety. The governor visited the Yuma sector of the border on Tuesday. Here's what he told ABC 15 about the situation.
We asked them to bring back Title 42, which is the Remain in Mexico policy. They've announced it, but they're putting it forward piecemeal. So what you have is the drug cartels taking full advantage of these people in a rush to get them over the border.
Footage shows illegal immigrants crossing through a gap in a border wall even while the governor was speaking. Ducey blames the Biden administration for the border crisis, saying, "It's clear the Biden administration has created a December disaster at our border. As a result of piecemeal policy and a lack of federal involvement, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has been inundated. We simply cannot stand by and watch this catastrophe unfold." In October, U.S. border agents made more than 164,000 encounters at the southern border. Allison Lee, NTD News.
At the moment, the FDA is being sued over documents about Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. The FDA has already asked a judge for 55 years to release those documents. Now they're asking for more time. NTD's Miguel Moreno reports.
The Food and Drug Administration has now asked a judge to give it 75 years to release the hundreds of thousands of documents in question. Documents about the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Lawyer Aaron Seary represents Public Health and Medical Professionals for Transparency, the organization suing the FDA. In a blog post referring to the FDA's request, he said, "And if you find what you are reading difficult to believe, that is because it is dystopian for the government to give Pfizer billions, mandate Americans to take its product, prohibit Americans from suing for harms, but yet refuse to let Americans see the data underlying its licensure." The FDA says one of its centers keeps the records sought by the plaintiff but only has 10 staff members. The federal agency also says their proposed 75-year schedule will allow them to respond to other information requests. The plaintiff wants all documents released within 108 days. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Roe v. Wade legalized abortion across the United States in 1973. Now the Supreme Court may be preparing to overturn the landmark decision next summer. How would states opposed to the move respond? A report from California offers one scenario.
California expects an influx of out-of-state women seeking abortions if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade next year. The state's Future of Abortion Council released a report Wednesday to address what members called a public health crisis.
Those new justices are poised to make a decision that will affect half of the people in this country, and we're talking about 36 million women of reproductive age that can no longer access a service.
A total of 40 groups formed the council, among them California's affiliates of Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion provider. Working with women's rights leaders, they laid out 45 policy recommendations. These, if applied, would turn the state into a so-called abortion sanctuary state. The report proposes assistance ranging from a package of potential new legislation to travel funding and calls for nursing staff training programs.
Things like practical support, travel, lodging, childcare, some of those things, if you need to seek care, and certainly from out of state, workforce challenges around information and education.
In September, the Supreme Court was asked to block a Texas law banning abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy, but opted not to do so. During oral arguments for a Mississippi case last week, the High Court again signaled a possible change to abortion law nationwide. Estimates show that 26 states are poised to outlaw the procedure if the court limits Roe.
California plays a pivotal role in what will be a network of states that will be impacted and charged with taking care of patients. I mean, we're looking at a scenario where half the country is impacted.
California's state Medicaid already covers abortions for low-income residents, but money won't be an issue to accommodate more from other states. This thanks to a record budget surplus in California, estimated at $31 billion, fueled by soaring coffers amid the pandemic.
The Biden administration is refusing to attend a congressional hearing on the closing of Guantanamo Bay. Lawmakers from both parties say they're disappointed over the administration's apparent lack of attention to this issue. Here are the details.
For the last 2 decades,
Chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, is leading the effort to close the Guantanamo prison. Durbin co-wrote letters to Biden and Attorney General Merrick Garland in April and July, urging them to prioritize the issue. He also introduced a bill to close the facility last week. The prison was opened in Cuba in 2002 after 9/11. The Biden administration refused to send an official to the committee hearing on Tuesday. Durbin criticized the no-show, saying he was disappointed that the president and attorney general have yet to respond to his letters, and that the administration declined to send a witness to testify at the hearing on how they are working to close Guantanamo. Republicans say they agree, noting the lack of participation shows that the administration doesn't have a clear plan for closing Guantanamo. Senator Lindsey Graham, who's also on the Judiciary Committee, pointed out there's not one member of the Biden administration on this panel, adding that he finds it stunning that not one member of the administration would come before this committee to talk about closing Gitmo. According to the Chief Defense Counsel for the Military Commissions, 39 detainees remain at the facility. 27 of them haven't been formally charged with a crime, and of those charged, none have trial dates.
New York City is looking at a measure that would allow non-citizens the right to vote in citywide elections. The New York City Council is expected to approve the measure today. If it does, non-citizens will be able to vote in races for mayor, public advocate, borough president, and city council. People would have to have lived in the city for at least a month and be legal permanent residents of the U.S. This would open up voting rights to DACA recipients, green card holders, and people with workers' permits. If passed, it would take effect on New Year's Day and make New York the largest jurisdiction expanding voting rights to non-citizens. Washington, D.C. is facing a lawsuit in federal court for keeping its voter data secret. The inspection of voter list maintenance records is required by federal law, but the D.C. Board of Elections claims it cannot provide those documents because of its contract with a nonprofit. Let's take a look.
The Public Interest Legal Foundation, or PILF, brought the lawsuit against the D.C. Board of Elections. The board has a contract with the Electronic Registration Information Center, or ERIC. It's a nonprofit that describes its mission as assisting states to improve the accuracy of America's voter rolls and increase access to voter registration for all eligible citizens. 31 states plus D.C. outsourced the maintenance of their voter rolls to ERIC. The D.C. Board of Elections says the contract prohibits it from releasing data that ERIC provides to member states. But the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 rules that all records used to add or remove voters are public records. The group that filed the lawsuit says ERIC has a history of inaccuracy, particularly in removing those deceased and other ineligible registrants from voter rolls. PILF President J. Christian Adams, a former U.S. Justice Department civil rights attorney, says ERIC is being used to hide decisions about who gets to vote and who is removed from the rolls. ERIC and its agreement with the District of Columbia is standing in the way of transparency and violating federal law. PILF is based in Indianapolis and describes itself as the nation's only public interest law firm dedicated wholly to election integrity. It filed the lawsuit on Monday with the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia.
The North Carolina Supreme Court is ordering primary elections to be delayed by 2 months until May 17th. That's to settle 3 lawsuits filed by Democrats and civil rights groups over redrawn political maps. Those maps were approved last month by the Republican-controlled legislature. The justices ordered a lower court judge to examine if the boundaries of the state's electoral districts were unlawfully manipulated to favor the GOP. The head of the state legislature says the legal fight is leaving state residents with uncertainty before the election. He says he's confident the new maps will survive legal proceedings. The court's ruling also suspends candidate filing dates for the 2022 primary elections. For the better part of half a century, the fate of Auburn University student Kyle Clinkscales has remained a mystery, but authorities took a huge step in solving the case this week. Clinkscales and his 1974 Ford Pinto vanished 45 years ago on January 27, 1976. He was on his way back to Auburn from LaGrange, Georgia. Decades of searching turned up nothing. Now, investigators say the vehicle was found partially submerged Tuesday in an Alabama creek. The tag number confirmed it was Clinkscales' car. Inside, investigators found several bones, as well as a wallet and Clinkscales' ID. Sadly, police say Clinkscales' mother died this year, still holding out hope that her son would come home. His father passed away in 2007. Authorities believe the bones are human, and investigators will work to determine if they are Clinkscales' remains. They will also try to determine the cause of death, but that may not be possible at this point. A father and son are under arrest on suspicion of starting a massive California wildfire. The Caldor fire forced tens of thousands to flee Lake Tahoe area earlier this year. 66-year-old David Scott Smith and his 32-year-old son Travis are accused of reckless arson. Both suspects are being held in El Dorado County Jail with bail set at $1 million each. The Caldor fire threatened ski resorts and other recreational areas near Lake Tahoe. The blaze burned for nearly 2 months. It destroyed more than 200,000 acres and 1,000 structures. According to the district attorney's office, criminal charges have not yet been filed in the case. A woman was arrested after a police chase on a golf course in Florida. The sheriff's department says the chase began when officers tried to pull the woman over, but she drove away. Video shows her driving over fairways on the Grand Harbor Golf Course in Vero Beach. Her vehicle was rammed by a police SUV and brought to a stop after hitting another police vehicle. She climbed out of her car with her hands in the air before attempting to use her cell phone. Officers forced her to the ground and handcuffed her before dragging her away. The woman now faces multiple charges, including aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and driving under the influence. The head of an elite team of Navy SEALs is dead after a training incident. 43-year-old Commander Brian Bourgeois of the Navy SEAL Team 8 died Tuesday after he was injured in Virginia Beach over the weekend. According to the Navy, initial reports indicate an accident occurred during an exercise where troops practiced descending a rope quickly. The incident is under investigation. Bourgeois' career in the military spanned more than 20 years and earned him several decorations and awards, including the Bronze Star. He is survived by his wife and their 5 children. Coming up, California voters may get a chance to increase their minimum wage. The push is coming from an anti-poverty millionaire. And in January, new rules would take effect in California to tackle food waste. But major cities like Los Angeles, San Diego, and Sacramento won't have their programs ready to go then. Find out more after this short break.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on MyPillow products. products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 My Pillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
The City of Oakland's council passed a new police hiring plan. It includes 2 more police academies and filling their vacant officer positions. NTD's David Lamb went to Oakland to hear what locals had to say.
We've seen police reform throughout the nation, and earlier this year, the City of Oakland redirected about $17 million from the police department into violence prevention programs. And it's been a big topic of discussion as there's been a shortage of police officers. Council President Pro Tem Shung Tao said on Tuesday that they're struggling to hire adequate staff across the board, from delayed 911 responses, lack of crossing guards, and firefighter coverage.
If they're under the threshold of their personnel, then I think they should definitely have, whatever that standard is or whatever that baseline is. They should have that, I guess, to make sure people are safe. But I'm surprised that costs more money to bring people up just to their baseline. I'm surprised, so.
Tao said the solution to violent crime is deeper investments into the community and says that the current vacancies won't be filled by waiting for recruits to finish training by 2023. She wants more investments in housing, healthcare, and childcare to holistically respond to violent crime.
There's lots and lots of issues where we send cops out to deal with an incident and they're not the right tool for it. Social services folks, all kinds of other tools we have at our disposal, we should have at our disposal that we should be able to use there. But clearly, we got to have more cops out on the street as well.
I actually work with one of the violence prevention programs in Oakland, and some of the money was never taken away, but some of the officers actually work with our program. So it benefited us, and they were trying to take that money away from actually a program that's supporting Oakland youth.
If everybody come together and do what's right, and parents teach their kids what's right and wrong in the community, that's going to solve the problem.
Tao stated that the police hiring plan doesn't touch their $18 million investment in violence interruption programs. The council plans to work out incentive programs at the December 21st council meeting. Reporting in Oakland, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
The CEO of Better.com is apologizing for his manner of handling layoffs at the mortgage company. This is after a video of him firing 900 people went viral on social media.
And yet there's more. Oh, I got my little Tommy.
Christian Chapman was among the 900 people fired from a mortgage lending company via a Zoom call last week. Almost a tenth of his former company, Better.com's workforce, was laid off by CEO Vishal Garg in a video that went viral on social media. In footage shared with Reuters on Wednesday, Chapman was seen opening a package containing a mini trophy and a certificate. It arrived after what he described as his whole world crashing with just one click.
It was like somebody sucked the oxygen out of the room. And you start thinking, am I hearing what I think I'm hearing right now? Is that really happening? Wait, is this for me? And then my world crashes. And by that, I mean, they remotely shut down our computer, shut down our Slack, shut down our mobiles with the Slack, shut everything down. So the community that I surround myself with, what I would consider my family, my fellow trainers that we've worked with nonstop, we can't even talk to them. When you're completely shut out of your system, we're Zooming. And I mean, imagine, I'm like, hey, you're laid off, click. There's no resolution. There's no grab your stuff from your desk. You're still sitting at your desk. Nothing goes away. The laptop's still there. It's just black.
Garg has come under intense criticism over his handling of the layoffs and has since issued an apology. In a letter dated Tuesday, the CEO said, quote, "I realized that the way I communicated this news made a difficult situation worse." Chapman called the video firings a failure of capitalism and called Garg's letter PR.
California state voters may have a chance to increase their minimum wage once again. A millionaire anti-poverty activist is trying to get a new minimum wage law on the state's ballot for 2022.
A Los Angeles-based investor is pushing for $18 minimum wages in California. According to the Los Angeles Times, Joe Sandberg filed the Living Wage Act of 2022 with the state attorney general's office on December 3rd. The self-described progressive business leader is financing the effort to gather signatures to get the measure on the next election ballot.
I think that that's going to hurt a lot of small businesses. I think there are a lot of jobs that don't necessarily require $18 an hour. I understand the Valley is an expensive area to live, but I also think about the small business owner, and $18 an hour, what you're going to lose is you're going to lose a lot of full-time employees and only part-time employees because it's just so expensive for a small business owner to keep someone.
Some Californians oppose the raise. The new minimum wage hike may be voted on before the current wage raise is finished. Starting next year, large California businesses must raise their minimum wage to $15 an hour. All other businesses must meet the pay rate by 2023.
I think it's wrong. Raise the minimum wage to $18 an hour for, say, McDonald's or Burger King. They're going to start raising the prices for food. It's just a vicious cycle.
Wakefield points out the problem is not about wages, but increasing market prices, which raises cost of living. Several large corporations have recently moved their businesses out of state, including Tesla, Oracle, and Disney. If passed, all California businesses will have to pay employees at least $18 an hour by 2026.
Banana peels, chicken bones, and leftover veggies soon won't be allowed in most California trash bins. The restrictions are part of a mandatory food recycling program designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from landfills. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest.
Some cities are ahead of the curve. Davis, home to about 68,000 people, launched its food recycling program back in 2016 and is seeing success.
It's really easy. I mean, all you're changing is where you're throwing things. It's just another bin. I appreciate that we can be making a change without really impacting our lives very much.
The goal is to turn food scraps into compost or energy, rather than let them decay and emit methane, a gas many times more potent than carbon. Before emitting methane as it decays, food that no one eats wastes energy and resources on production, transportation, and packaging. About 40% of food is wasted in the United States. Once that food is in landfills, it creates about 15% of the nation's methane emissions, according to the Environmental Protection Agency.
And they'll dump in the section where it goes through processing. If there's any contaminations that's large, it gets removed, and then the material gets grind up.
California's law, passed in 2016, tackles food waste in a few ways. Starting in January, local governments and entities that collect trash are supposed to have mandatory food recycling programs in place. Many cities will provide residents in single-family homes and apartments with countertop food waste bins that can hold scraps for a day or two.
It means that we just don't bury and forget about it. We're actually taking responsibility and not leaving it for a next generation to do something.
But a food recycling program hasn't yet been tried at this scale. Major cities like Los Angeles, San Diego, and Sacramento won't have their programs ready to go by January. Right now, only a fraction of the state's composting facilities are currently able to take food waste, and trash collection fees will go up in many places as local governments spend money to help create new composting facilities. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A secret deal between Apple and Beijing. It's a $100 billion agreement to help the communist country develop its economy. In exchange, Beijing is easing its crackdown on Apple's business operations in China and giving the tech giant some assistance.
The news of the deal came out from U.S.-based technology website The Information on Tuesday. The media outlet had done interviews with people familiar with the matter and viewed some internal Apple documents. Apple CEO Tim Cook signed the agreement in 2016 when he visited China, and it lasted 5 years. Back then, the company was dealing with a series of regulatory action in China. The report added Chinese officials believed Apple was not contributing enough to Chinese economy. As a result, Cook signed an investment agreement of $275 billion with a Chinese regime agency. It included building new Apple retail stores, research and development centers, and renewable energy projects. The deal didn't stop there. Apple also promised to help China build the most advanced manufacturing technologies. The CCP had an ambitious development plan called the 13th Five-Year Plan. Regarding the plan, Apple vowed to grow together with Chinese enterprises to achieve mutual benefits and a win-win situation. Internal documents viewed by The Information revealed that Apple also made compromises to Chinese authorities in other areas. In 2015, Chinese authorities demanded that Apple Maps make some islands in the East China Sea look big on the map. China and Japan have been in a dispute over who owns the islands. Chinese regulators threatened not to approve Apple Watch if the company doesn't comply. Apple followed the demand. Apple's App Store in China also looks different than the App Store in the US and other countries. Tens of thousands of apps are missing, including apps of foreign news outlets and encrypted messaging services. Tools for organizing pro-democracy protests are blocked. Apple said it removed the apps in order to comply with Chinese laws. And what about data safety? Apple also appeared to comply with Chinese authorities in this area. According to a New York Times report, Apple is moving some of the personal data of Chinese customers to a data center in the Chinese city of Guiyang. And this data center is a state-owned company. Local authorities have direct access to the data stored there. In the years following the agreement, Apple has been very active in China. For example, the company signed a deal with China's largest wind turbine maker, which is located in Xinjiang, where ethnic Uyghurs face suppression by the communist regime. Apple also launched a $300 million investment fund for clean energy in China. The tech giant added 11 more retail stores and brought a Chinese manufacturer into iPhone 13 production. For Apple, China has turned into a cash cow. In a single year, the company made a record $68 billion in revenue in what it calls Greater China, which includes Hong Kong and Taiwan. And about 1/5 of Apple's total sales come from this region.
A woman in China's Sichuan province died from the H5N6 strain of avian influenza last month, a regional health bureau said this week. It's the latest human fatality from the lethal disease. The 54-year-old woman developed symptoms on November 17th and was admitted to the hospital on November 21st. She died 2 days later, according to a statement from the Macau Health Bureau. She had been exposed to dead poultry before the onset of illness, it added. The number of people in China infected with H5N6 bird flu this year has jumped, raising concern among experts who say a previously circulating strain appears to have changed and may be more infectious to people. Of 26 infections reported by the Chinese regime's various government departments this year, most have been in Sichuan province, though cases have also been reported in neighboring provinces. The British Broadcasting Company has invested nearly $200 million in Chinese companies through its pension fund. Financial reports filed up to the end of March 2021 show investments in firms that support China's communist regime. The real figure is likely much higher, as the BBC only reveals its 20 largest investments.
The fund represents the pension investments of 47,000 current and former BBC staff. The Chinese firms in the fund's 20 largest holdings include Alibaba, Tencent, and Pinduoduo. Alibaba and Tencent regularly collaborate with the Chinese regime to carry out internet censorship, allegedly providing surveillance software used against Uyghurs. E-commerce platform Pinduoduo is on a U.S. blacklist after violations of intellectual property rights. Former Tory leader Sir Ian Duncan Smith says license fee payers would be horrified to know that the money they pay the BBC ends up sustaining a brutal, dictatorial and violent regime that practices genocide. A BBC spokesman told the Daily Mail the scheme is operationally independent from the BBC and has a wide range of investments with a small proportion of Chinese companies. A responsible investment policy is also in place.
Similar issues also exist in the U.S. In 2019 and early 2020, the federal government retirement fund considered a plan to shift some of its investments into Chinese companies. Then President Trump criticized the move, saying it hurts national security. The administrations of the Thrift Savings Plan, a retirement savings fund for federal employees and members of the military, ultimately postponed the changes. Just ahead, women in Spain who catch shellfish take pride in the unique profession. They comb through waist-deep water, gathering shellfish with nothing more than a rake. All that and more here on NTD News.
The worst genocide in human history also destroyed the lives of thousands of Jewish survivors still suffering today.
God calls on people who believe in him to act on his word. Comfort my people.
Especially during this holiday season of Hanukkah. When I come here and I sit with Lily, I realize what she needs right now is food. These elderly Jews are weak and they're sick. They're living on $2 a day. This now is how God's children are living. Take this time to send a survival food box to these forgotten Jews.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews urgently need your gift of $25 now to help provide one survival food box with all of the essentials they critically need for their diet for 1 month. Your special holiday gift will provide everything they need to celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah.
This is the first time in over 70 years that she has anything to do with faith.
The communists came and wiped it out.
Your grandparents?
And now we're coming to her and we're saying, it's okay to have faith. It's okay to light the Hanukkah candles.
For just $25, you can help supply the essential foods they desperately need for 1 month.
For over 35 years, this trusted ministry has given Christians like me a way to tangibly bless Jewish people who are in need throughout the world.
God tells us to take care of them, to feed the hungry. And I pray Holocaust survivors will be given the basic needs that they so desperately pray for to survive.
Some 4,000 people, mostly women, work as traditional shellfishers along the rugged coastline of Spain's Galicia region. For some, it's much more than a seasonal job.
As dawn breaks over the Noya estuary in Spain's Galicia region, hundreds of women descend into the waist-deep waters to gather cockles and clams, using techniques that have been passed down through generations. For these women, shellfishing is much more than a seasonal job.
It means everything to me. When I walk by the sea, I forget all my problems. I relax and I care about nothing. I'm in the sea doing my hobby.
It is 7:30 in the morning, and we are fishing shellfish.
Some 4,000 people, almost all women, work as traditional shellfishers along the Atlantic estuaries of Galicia's rugged coastline.
My name is Marie Carmen Rosende Mayo. I've been fishing shellfish for 31 years, and I'm going to retire on December 30th.
Using nothing more than long-handled rakes attached to metal baskets, they earn around $2,300 a month for the 6-month season, from October through March.
This is a freeing job. You are like a seagull. You are free. This always drew my attention since I was a little girl.
The practice is strictly regulated by a European Union-funded project focused on the sustainability of shellfish stock. Only licensed shellfishers can participate.
We have to really take care of the sea, because it is the livelihood of many people, especially in this estuary.
At the end of the day, each woman's catch is weighed and shipped off. Some of the old-timers have seen the perception of shellfishing change over time.
Many years ago, they used to say, "What is your job? Are you a shellfisherwoman? Yuck, shellfisherwoman?" And now, how many would like to be a shellfisherman?
Alida Elena, who is 35, is one of a new generation of women learning the ropes.
Working at sea infatuates you. As soon as the day is over, I am eager for the next day to come so I can return.
Sydney lit up with Christmas light installations across the city center, encouraging residents to get out and enjoy the festive season after a year that saw an extended lockdown across the city. St. Mary's Cathedral in the heart of Sydney showcased its annual light show, highlighting the meaning of Christmas with scenes of an angel, Mary and Joseph, and the three wise men riding camels. Shoppers browsed stores in Pitt Street Mall under the canopy of lights, as others walked through a candy cane-inspired light installation in Darling Harbour Precinct. The tallest Christmas tree in the state of New South Wales stood in Martin Place, decorated with more than 110,000 LED lights and 330 ornaments. A team of architects and others have traded glass, steel, and wood for dough, sweets, and icing. The Gingerbread City 2021 exhibition in London has opened. It explores the theme Nature in the City. NTD's Neil Woodrow takes it in.
The Gingerbread City, designed by architects here in London, is baked, iced and decorated, ready for visitors. Let's find out more. The Museum of Architecture's Gingerbread City 2021 is made entirely from gingerbread and confectionery. Some of the UK's leading architects, engineers, landscape architects and designers have come together to create this wintry mini-urban landscape. Now in its 5th year, Rob Fain from the museum tells us more about the project.
So in the Museum of Architecture is all about engaging with the general public. And so we looked at the gingerbread house as this wonderful treat that children and parents really enjoy. So we wanted to translate that into something more special, more wonderful, and also encourage architects to really push the boat out.
Each year they set a new theme.
So this year's theme is all about the relationship between architecture and nature and rewilding the city, and ways that we can bring the natural world, flora and fauna, into the city spaces to make a greener, happier and healthier environment.
The exhibition comprises over 100 individual gingerbread structures built across different environmental zones.
Yeah, so really there are 5 key zones, and they respond to different ways that nature can come into the city. So the city is bordered by the green belt and forests. There's also floodplains that exist within the city to deal with water runoff. There's even urban farms, places where you can grow your own food. So really the city is not divorced from the natural landscape. It's actually completely intertwined, and that's what we're really trying to communicate with this year's city.
In case you're wondering, no one eats the display once the event closes.
I wouldn't advise anybody eats the cake. It is designed to a structural recipe rather than an edible recipe. However, we do make it out of food so that you can, when you come here, you can see that it smells and looks delightful. The children do want to take a little nibble, but they're not allowed to.
Visitors can also build their own nature-inspired gingerbread building by joining a daily workshop and take it home with them. It's recommended to pre-book online. A lot of work has gone into creating this fun city with meaning, but remember, it's not for eating. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, London.
For the first time, Pantone has mixed up a brand new hue for its color of the year. The official color of 2022 is called Very Peri, a dynamic periwinkle blue with a violet-red undertone. You'll start seeing it in a range of Microsoft apps like PowerPoint, Teams, Windows, and in digital screensavers. Since the year 2000, Pantone's team of design experts study trends in art and fashion to select a color that highlights top global trends. Very Peri is a color they say symbolizes the future with a nod towards innovation and change. It's also a welcome departure from the colors of peak pandemic years like 2021's, which featured a considerably more drab ultimate gray. For many, aging is synonymous with aches and pains, forgetfulness, and loneliness. Let's get some tips from centenarians on how to age well. Here's Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. The majority of centenarians report feeling about 20 years younger than their actual age. Their mindset has a lot to do with self-perception. Most centenarians, regardless of their health status, tend to have positive attitudes, optimism, and a zest for life. So what are their secrets to aging well? These individuals represent centuries of wisdom that should not be overlooked. Researchers have been mining the minds of centenarians for nuggets of wisdom. They want to understand their patterns of thinking and behavior. Centenarians overwhelmingly cite stress as the most important thing to avoid. Those who have lived 100 years or more on this earth have undoubtedly experienced a number of stressful events, but as a general rule, they manage their stress really well. Rather than dwelling on it, they let it go. And most often, they choose to be happy despite everything. In interviews and surveys, the following themes also came up time and time again. This was when they were asked to explain why they lived so long. Number 1 was keeping a positive attitude and living with passion. Number 2, exercising moderately. Most report basic activities like walking, biking, gardening, and swimming. Number 3 was living independently. Number 4, eating good food. Number 5, clean living. In other words, not smoking or drinking excessively. Number 6 was family and friends. And let's not forget number 7, faith and spirituality. Being able to forgive and let go of stress. Interviews with centenarians across the world reveal that having a positive worldview is part and parcel of enjoying a longer than normal life. This makes sense when you consider how potent a component your emotions are for your health. Your emotional state plays a role in nearly every physical disease, from heart disease and depression to arthritis and cancer. Having effective coping mechanisms to deal with everyday stresses are a major longevity promoting factor. This is because stress has a direct impact on inflammation, which in turn underlies many of the chronic diseases that kill people prematurely. Meditation, prayer, social support, and exercise are all viable options that can help you to maintain emotional and mental equilibrium. In short, living a long life boils down to an overall healthy lifestyle.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.